Hello everyone. Today we shall start a new chapter from your political science book, Understanding Secularism. So let's commence. We find many examples of discrimination on the basis of religion in our society, country, and the world. Members of one religious community either persecute or discriminate against members of other religious communities. We have witnessed many barbaric communal riots from time to time in our country. Thousands of people were killed during partition of India. Generally, communalism refers to a politics that seeks to unify one community around a religious identity in hostile opposition to another community. So, what is basically a communal politics is it tries to pit one religious community against the other. It means that the one religious community is given a free go, means they are allowed to exert their dominance over the members of the minority community, and the state is in support of them. And when the state takes sides of the majority community, then it is always detrimental to the society. It may turn very fatal. So if we talk about the communalism, it is not only practiced by political parties sometimes, but also by people among themselves. If we talk of distancing ourselves from members of the other religious communities, then we are also knowingly or unknowingly practicing communalism only. There can be various forms of communalism, which I am here not going to discuss in detail, but I am simply telling you communalism can be expressed in our day to day practices also. So, we have to fight this evil of communalism in every possible way. We can say it's a special type of politicization of religious identity, right? And this has to stop. We have to fight against communal politics of all kinds. In the context of a multi religious country, the phrase religious nationalism gets a similar meaning. The term secular was inserted in the preamble during the 42nd Amendment to the Constitution. India does not have an official religion. The people of India have freedom of religion, and the state treats all individuals as equal citizens regardless of the religion and faith. As we know that our country has different religions, faiths, beliefs, and modes of worship. Therefore, secularism is the pivot, it is the center of our democratic system. The whole fabric of our society is woven by the warp and weft of secularism. In contrast, you may be of the opinion that no one should be discriminated against on grounds of his or her religious practices and beliefs. So, this is the essence of secularism. Let us understand the basic propositions of secularism, some of which we have already discussed in the introductory part only. People belonging to different faiths and sections of society are equal before the law, the constitution, and the government policies. And there shouldn't be any mixing of religion and politics. As we've seen in case of communal politics, there is a politics that happens along the religious identity, and that makes one religious community an enemy against the other members of the other religious community. So that shouldn't happen. And so secularism is based on this very idea that there shouldn't be unnecessary involvement of politics into religious matters. But we will discuss it further also little later, that there can be an intervention by the state in the religious matters when it comes to protecting the fundamental rights. I mean to say, in every religion there can be some family laws, there can be certain discriminatory laws which can be against the fundamental rights of an individual. So when it comes to protecting fundamental rights, then the state can intervene in even in matters of even in religious matters as well, to protect the rights of the individual. So we'll just quickly discuss that too a little later. Why is it important to separate religion from state? It is important to protect the minority community, because the tyranny of majority community could result in violation of fundamental rights. When majority is let go of the way they want, whatever way they want to do, then in that case it might result in violation of fundamental rights, right? So dictatorship of majority could result in violation of fundamental rights. There is a need to protect freedom of individuals to exit from their religion also. So individuals should be given this right, that whenever they want to exit from the religion, they should be allowed to do so. Or if they want to embrace another religion or have the freedom to interpret religious teachings differently, so that also they should be allowed. So secularism is important for a country to function democratically. This is point one. Almost every country in the world has more than one religious group. So, from among these groups, one group may be in a majority. If this majority religious group has access to state power, it may misuse this power and financial resources to discriminate against persons of other religious groups. This is what the first line explains. If the state power is there with one religious community, in that case it may misuse this power and financial resources to discriminate against persons of other religious groups. Now, any form of domination based on religion may violate the fundamental rights that a democratic country guarantees to its citizens. So, it is essential for a democratic country to be secular, because it has to protect the freedom of individuals to exit from their religion, adopt another religion, or have the freedom to interpret religious teachings differently. Right? What is Indian secularism? Here are the points written there. We'll just quickly go through them. There is no official or state religion. No one can be discriminated on the basis of religion or faith. Everyone is free to practice, promote, and propagate their religious beliefs or not to follow any. If someone wants to not to follow any religion also, he or she should be allowed to do so also. So no interference in religious matter. This is very important. There is a policy of non-interference that also we are going to discuss in detail. State intervention can be there if personal or family laws are discriminatory. This is what I was talking a short while ago. That if in the name of religion you can do anything, then that is not the case. You cannot have absolute rights in the name of religion, right? We've seen that in many religions there are certain laws, there are certain family laws which are discriminatory. Like earlier we seen the practice of sati pratha, which allowed the widow, which forced the widow to uh, burn alive with the dead body of her husband. So this was a very discriminatory practice that had to be stopped, and for that the state had to intervene. And we talk of untouchability also, right? In the name of religion only, untouchability was being practiced. So uh, the state had to intervene even in the matter of untouchability, and it had to ban, it had to make laws banning untouchability of any form. And then we talk of triple talaq. Just recently, the government has made a law banning triple talaq. So it is also a discriminatory practice that had to be banned. So it is not that in the name of religion you have absolute freedom. You cannot do anything whatever you like in the name of religion. There are reasonable freedom that is allowed only in whatever you do. So reasonable freedom is there. It is not that one can do whatever one likes, right? And especially in the name of religion, we've seen many discriminatory practices were being encouraged, right? Since people understand that if we associate a discriminatory practice with religion, then people may not question it, right? So it's an easy way for dogmats or for the fundamentalists to uh, associate every act of theirs with the religion, so that people don't question them. So that is an easy way for them. But the state cannot remain blindfolded or cannot remain handfolded doing nothing. The state has to intervene in all such matters wherever the family laws are discriminatory, especially against the women. And we talk about certain laws, they can be even against the children, and they can be there can be such practices which are discriminatory against people belonging to the so-called low classes, the untouchability, right? So a state can intervene when it comes to protecting the um, fundamental rights of individuals. So one religious community does not dominate another, nor members of the same community dominate over the other. So uh, we understand all these things very clearly. Now we have to simply just look at the term there. Although the term secular was inserted in the preamble in 1976, yet India has always been a secular state. India is a vast country with diversity of cultures and religions. In fact, the fraternity and unity of a country like India could be built only on a secular basis. So, according to our constitution, only a secular state can achieve its objectives by ensuring certain elements. One, point number one is one religious community does not dominate another religious group in the country. Some members of a religious group do not dominate other members of the same religious community, because we sometimes see that there are divisions created over other criteria also, over other the social divisions based on financial status also. So sometimes there can be discrimination by the members of a community against their own members, against the members of the same religious community. So that has to that intra discriminatory practices also had to be completely removed. So the state doesn't enforce any particular religion, nor does it take away the religious freedom of individuals, right? Now, what is real secularism? See, this picture says it all. We can see that how people are living harmoniously, celebrating festivals together, and peace all around is there. So, this is what is real secularism: cooperating with one another, living peacefully, right? So, these are the basic tenets wherein we have people belonging to different religious communities living together peacefully, harmoniously, and cooperatively. So this is real secularism, and this picture says it all. Now, how secularism is practiced in India? First, we have already discussed this point though. Distancing from religion, we have maintained an equidistance from all religions, right? So India has adopted a strategy of separating religion from the state. It does not support any one religion. For example, we cannot celebrate any religious festival in the government school premises. There is a public holiday for each important religious festival so that we can celebrate it at home. Now, freedom of religion is what we are given. Everyone in the country is free to follow any religion or not to follow any. If somebody wants to remain an atheist, he or she can be so also, right? So policy of non-interference, India also adopts a strategy of non-interference with religious practices in order to respect the sentiments of all religions. For this purpose, the state makes certain exceptions in the law for particular religious communities. We'll read about it, we'll see it through the storyboard also. There's an example. As per the law in Delhi, wearing a helmet is essential for persons driving in two wheelers, but the Sikhs have been exempted from this law. This is because wearing a pagdi is a very important part of Sikh religion, so the government cannot force the Sikh to wear a helmet. And there is a policy of intervention about which I have just talked also. the state adopts a strategy of intervention in order to prevent the domination mentioned earlier. So, untouchability, in which members of a religion, the upper caste Hindus, dominate other members of the same some of some religion, like some lower caste Hindus. The Indian Constitution bans the practice of untouchability. In this way, the state intervenes. I have also given you the example earlier as well. The case of triple talaq we discussed. We also discussed the sati pratha. So we can say that banning untouchability, the state actually has done what? It has intervened in religion in order to prevent an evil social practice. So it believes that untouchability violates the fundamental rights of the lower caste Hindus, right? So this is very important. The state also intervenes in the religion based personal laws of communities in order to ensure equal inheritance rights. Now, the state also intervenes in the religion through its support, right? Here we can find it that there can be state intervention in the form of support also, in the form of some support. For example, the constitution allows religious communities to establish their own schools and colleges. The state also provides financial aids to these institutions. Here is a storyboard about which we just a short while ago were talking, that in government schools where the children were discussing that whether they could celebrate their religious festival at school this year. The teacher said no, they could not, because it's a government school. If they want to celebrate their religious festival, there's a public holiday declared by the government, so people can celebrate their religious festivals at home. Since we are a secular country, promotion of any particular religion should not be done by the state. So this is the example about which we were talking, that how wearing helmet, which is a law for every other members of the other religious communities, while the Sikhs, for them they they've been provided with the, here is the exception, that they are not supposed to, or they are not bound to wear the helmet, since the pagri is a very important part of their religion. So the government cannot force them to wear a helmet. Okay, so it is just to respect the sentiments of religious communities. Government sometimes goes ahead with certain exceptions, right? So what is the difference between Indian and American secularism? In the US, there is strict separation between state and religion. In India, state can intervene. We have already discussed that how state can intervene in religious affairs. If fundamental rights of an individual are violated due to discriminatory practices of any religious community, in India the intervention can be again in various forms. It can be in the form of a support also on a non-preferential basis. So we just now talked also that the support can be in form of financial aid to be given to the religious minorities, that they run their colleges and institutions, and the other there can be a support you know uh, in terms of financial aids only, that we just talked, that religious communities, they can establish their own schools and colleges, and the state also provides financial aids to these institutions, right? And if we just further discuss the similarities, the objectives regarding secularism are similar in other countries as well as, and have been included in the constitution of other democratic countries of the world. So some objectives regarding secularism are similar in other countries as well as have been included in the constitutions of other democratic countries of the world. According to the First Amendment of the US Constitution, the legislature cannot declare any religion as the official religion. That is, it cannot give preference to one religion. As we know, the same is the case in India. Here also, neither the state nor the religion can interfere in the affairs of one another. So there are certain dissimilarities also that we just read. India has a kind of secularism that is different from other democratic countries in the world in the ways that we are just going to discuss. Indian secularism can intervene in religious affairs, for example, in case of untouchability, but there is a strict separation between religion and state in American secularism. In Indian secularism, any interference in religion by the state has to be based on the ideals laid out in the constitution. So, thus, we find that India is a secular state. It works in various ways to prevent religious domination by any one community towards the other. Our constitution guarantees fundamental rights that are based on these secular principles. However, we may find many examples of violations of these rights in our country, in our society. Therefore, the laws should be strictly implemented. So, merely making laws will not do, they need to be properly implemented as well. So, here are the exercises which you are supposed to do, and you should also do this glossary in your notebook. For any questions, you can just post your questions to me. I'll be happy to answer your queries. Right? Thank you so much.